think everything is good. So again, Fridays is where we actually play games, practicing going over a principle that we taught on Monday. We reviewed on Wednesday using games, and then today we are playing games. Where I'm wearing my Simon Says shirt today because I do Simon Says routines. I really enjoy it, and I thought I'd try a little color today, see how that works. My Christmas hat too. Again, always learning, trying to test and get better at the presentation for you guys. But all about teaching. So we're going to hopefully go over games and look at development. Now, this is a game I'm showing you now because I'm waiting for a challenge. Hopefully, I will get one. And this is a game between one of my students and someone online. We don't know who they were. And we were looking at just are you developing? And they ended up playing a gambit and they admitted that they don't know the gambit that well. So that I found to be fun and interesting, and probably not the best way for them to do things. This is my new screen for when I'm actually going to be looking around for games or talking to people on Chess. I use Chess pretty much exclusively. Um, and I have some students online, so I'm asking them if they are willing to play. And okay, well, doesn't even take messages. So we'll see how it goes. And we'll see if we can get a game. Oh, I do have a challenge. So let's go back and see how the challenge will work. Ah, we have a Dragon Air. So this is one of my students. So this window over here should be showing my clock. It is not showing the clock. So I'm going to test and see what happens when I edit my layout while we're actually doing this. So give me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can edit my layout. And yes, that needs to be definitely changed. And yes, fixed. So we'll save that and come back. All right, so hopefully now you can see the clock. We're playing an 8-minute game, and I will tell my opponent good luck and thanks for playing. She picked a casual game, which is chess fine, and I have white. All right, so here we go. I'm going to make sure that I develop my pieces while watching for free candy, and we'll see if my student does the same. My student's 1129 rated, as you can see in the window. That's always helpful. Not always helpful, but I think it's helpful. So I'm going to, I usually like to play other openings than this, but I just want to develop quickly. And so now she is not protecting her pawn and she's allowing me to take. So I would take, and in normal times I would take to see if she knows what to do. But rather than do that, I'm going to play a more sedate game and just develop my pieces. And it's because I want to do what we said we were doing, which is develop as fast as possible. So I'm going to keep developing, and she's kind of just doing what I'm doing, which is fine, but I'm going to just keep developing. Now, the only difference is I can now castle queenside or kingside. And this is, I taught this in Wednesday. She's doing great, by the way. She's done nothing but develop. So I'm going to continue with development also. But in this case, I'm moving my queen. I'm developing my queen first before I castle so that I can castle to either side. So now she really doesn't have a pin here. I'm going to let her have a pin by castling. And the pin is for the rook. So it's not for the queen. And I did this so the game is still unbalanced and I have an opportunity. So I am fully developed. My rooks are talking to each other. My king needs one more square for king safety, which is our other goal in the opening. Remember, we have develop, develop, develop. Those are our first three goals. Our fourth goal is to get our king into safety. And I castled queenside, which requires an extra move for that king's safety. Now she is fully developed. Excellent. So now we are both fully developed. Now I can move my king over to get that king safety portion done, or I can wait, look and see if I have any opportunities to attack. And I really don't see anything that's, oh, I do see something that's interesting. Because she castled kingside, I did not. I can trade my bishop for her knight and infiltrate her territory. If I infiltrate her territory after doubling her pawns by moving my queen in, this pawn will be hanging. I will have offered her free candy while attacking free candy. So it's a toss up, right? Both of them would be free candy. I think I'll go for it, or if nothing else, because I am fully developed, so is she, I can now attack. Now, as far as the principle of what we're teaching, I could stop now. We could just quit right now because I've done what I said I wanted to do, which is fully developed. She's also fully developed. And so we are in a situation where we're good to go. Now I can attack the bishop, hoping that she takes. I could take back. We both had double pawns. But as you'll notice, I have open files for my rooks then pointing at her king. So I'm going to try to scare her a little bit and play my rook first. Although I don't like giving away any free candy. I don't like free candy at all, right? It's just not my nature. I don't want to give her free candy. Seeing as how she could back up this bishop anyway, let's keep playing by the principle of not giving away free candy, and we'll push our pawn. We'll chase her bishop. Now I can push non-center pawns. Remember, we only want to move center pawns in the opening, but I can move non-center pawns because I am fully developed. So once you're fully developed, you can move non-center pawns, hopefully still with purpose, with a good reason. All right, so she did a good job. She decided to keep her bishop, not to trade it, not to open up the file, add her king. Definitely good work. Now, she's threatening to trade. I don't really want to double up my pawns, even though it's not a big deal. I'd much rather put my knight here and attack this pawn that is undefended and threaten it as free candy. So now I'm threatening this. It's become free candy because it's under attack and not defended. I've still reserved the protection of my F pawn, so she still doesn't have the free candy. And I'm still looking at getting my queen in here at the right time. But now I'm thinking I can also get my knight from here to here, especially if she trades. So if she trades here, I can drop my knight all the way over to here. So hoping for different opportunities, and we'll see how that goes. All right, still only have 2 students online, but the good news is she developed all of her pieces before attacking. So this student has actually been doing better and better, in my opinion. She's been getting better every semester, and this semester she's played some of her best chess, and I believe she's playing better chess because she's giving away less free candy. That is the number one thing for beginners. Stop giving away free candy. If you can make it so that you never give away free candy, you'll be so much better. All right. So now this pawn is still can be attacked. It's not free anymore. It's protected. So I want to get a second piece on it. Still not crazy about giving away this pawn, but you know what? I'm okay with it actually. So I'm going to go here because now this pawn is free candy, only protected once, while this pawn is free candy. So yes, I this is where I told you that you want to go through a game, never leaving free candy unless it's on purpose, and never not taking free candy unless it's on purpose. Now, she could stop me from getting this free candy by taking my knight. And if I were to take back with the bishop, she could take my free candy and it wouldn't be a trade of free candy. She'd just end up ahead free candy. Now, if she takes with the bishop, I could take back with the pawn, gaining a tempo, attacking her knight. The knight would have to move, but it does have a nice square to come over here and attack that bishop again. But at least that way I wouldn't be giving away just free candy. That said, I don't have a problem with her taking me taking back with the bishop, her taking the free candy, me chasing the bishop. Bishop can't come back here and say check. The queen still holds that square. The bishop could come here. The bishop can't come here because the knight and the queen are holding that square. So if this bishop takes, when I chase it, that bishop has to leave. So I'm going to take with the bishop, even though this free candy is now available, because I figure I'm going to chase it. And after I chase it, and after it leaves, got to go somewhere. I didn't have to chase it right away. I do have to chase it right away because I want to put my knight here. I want to put my knight here and then bring it here and threaten checkmate here. So if she, depending on where she puts her bishop, because now I'm threatening it, it should move. It should say, I don't want to give you my bishop for free. I might have some good opportunities. So I have to see what happens, see where she goes, and see what I can get out of it. Even if she goes someplace like here, which would keep me from putting my knight here, I think I'm still going to put my knight there because then the rook is attacking that pawn, and I have double attack on the rook pawn also. So the whole scheme of this, which again is way beyond what we're teaching this week. This week we're just talking about develop as fast as possible. The scheme behind this. Oh, look at this. Are you on the stream, Nina? I hope not. Okay, let's see. So like I said, I'm still going to go here anyway because I still get to open up this attack. So I'm still happy with my knight here. If she takes, I get to take back. I still get to open up an attack. Okay, wow. So my student's playing like I would. She's making all the same moves I would. So this is amazing and good. So now the pawn is attacked twice. So we'll see how she responds. Fun, fun, fun. Good news was development, development, development. Now we just get to play out the game, which is, that's fun. We like to play out games, get to see what's happening. If she pushes the pawn, then of course we can trade and then win the pawn. And then her king is still open, and we create a pretty nice, safe, quiet endgame. And it will be what it is. We'll have to wait and see what happens with it. That's definitely a move to protect the pawn. So now she has two pieces protecting the pawn, which we know should be a goal, right? We want to protect the pawn. I have ways to try to attack it. One way is to come here, right? But then I have no place to go. It would stop the pawn from pushing, but I'm not worried about the pawn pushing. If the pawn pushes, I just take it off. But instead, I could attack this way, threatening to come here. This pawn is possibly going to be weak soon in that case. I can also, by coming here, I can threaten to double up my rooks, bring this one over, and have two rooks and the queen all attacking the pawn. So I need to look a little bit and say, what happens? If I go here and my opponent comes here to threaten that rook, well, then I get to still slide over here and say check, like that. And then after I say check, that knight can come here. So I have to be careful. I can't just ignore the fact that there's an attack here brewing at some point soon. But I think I have other opportunities like putting my queen here to attack also. I can start by putting my queen here, but I don't know that I get anything after that. So I can also push my pawn here and just stop the knight from ever getting here, which might be a nice thing to do. And my last choice is I can push this pawn because I am, again, okay with totally opening up this position for my pieces, right? I want this to open up. So decisions, decisions, decisions. I think we'll go with kind of like the pawn up, rook up, move over, check, gets to leave, but then what? I think we'll be threatening. We'll move the pawn up and be a little bit threatening and see what happens. All right. Again, I'm expecting development, continued development. We want our players to always develop, develop, develop. So, and she's playing great. This is, like I said, quite proud of her. She's very well. This is the best I've seen her play yet, and especially as a beginner. She's not making the normal beginner mistakes. So this attacks my bishop, attacks the pawn. None of them are free. Everything is protected. So I'm tempted to just push this pawn, but not yet, right? Because then she can actually take and everything is protected. And I want to get the rook behind it. I'd rather see the knight here than here because the knight has less squares for harassing me. But I think I could just drop my bishop here and that protects the pawn, kind of nice, makes the king a little safer, and I'm in no rush to get my attack going. So we have time. She pushes here, I could just take. Takes back with the knight, I could take. Takes back with the queen, then she loses a protector here, and I get to take. So that pawn will become free at that point. Not free right now because it is still protected. But as we said, one of those protectors is the king. Not the best piece to be protecting the pawn, but it is what it is at this moment. So this knight move I'm not crazy about because the knight was doing good work. Here again, I was a little worried about it attacking, especially with the king with a check. But now I'm not really worried about the knight. The knight's off to the side of the board, not doing anything really exciting, while the bishop is still hitting an exciting pawn. I really like the bishop hitting that pawn to the point that I'm tempted to just push this pawn right away. But I think we'll keep with our plan. We'll put the rook on the file and keep moving. So this is also one of the things I worked on in a lesson today was time management with one of my students. And that'll be a much later lesson also. But that is another beginner area that needs to improve. Most beginners have a lot of trouble with time management. They they don't use their time well. They either move too quickly. A lot of my beginners move way too fast, and some move too slow. They take too long to make easy choices. How's to put it? It's a choice thing. All right, so she has a discovered attack on my queen, and I could just take her queen and then take the pawn because it's a free pawn. But it's a free pawn, and why trade my queen off when I have the forward momentum? So I'm going to take here instead, giving this discovered check. And this discovered attacks are probably the most powerful thing you could do because that pawn was allowed to go anywhere it wanted to. And it can keep going forward because it's protected twice, only attacked once, and it's taking away two important squares from the king. So now I'm threatening to come in here and checkmate. In fact, this is a threat of checkmate immediately. So the rook has to move just to give the king some place to go, right? And that's not going to work out well for black. So I could take the rook and win the exchange. I'd be up the exchange to start with, and then I could still say check, and black's king has to go here or here, and then I could drop the rook in here and chase that king again and win the queen. So that's all probably going to happen anyway. And the only question I have for myself is should I do it now or should I wait? Right? Do I do check first? Only has one move, and then I can come in here and say check. Only has one move, and then I could take here with check. I like that. Let's go with that route. All right. So check. Now there is only one move, so I can pre-move my check here. So again, time management, part of it is pre-moving. If you know it's forced, it just makes life a lot easier. Again, only legal move. So I'm going to take with check here. It's the only legal move. I could have pre-moved that one. She takes, and then I could take the queen because queens are worth the energy of taking. And then I'm going to take this pawn. So as you can see, I ended up way ahead in material. She does get a pawn, but that's okay. It's just a pawn. But it is a free pawn because the bishop's gone. That was a good catch on her part. All right, excellent game. Excellent game. Very good example. All right, I have another. Oh, good. I have another challenge and from another student. And it's another casual game, which is fine by me. I usually tell my students, another thing I'll tell you is I tell my students always play rated games so they can learn and see how they're getting better. Because if you don't do rated, you can't see how you're improving because your rating doesn't change. And so you don't know if you're getting better. You know, but you like to have evidence. And so I highly recommend that they go ahead and keep track by rating. Use rating when you play games. Don't play games without a rating, without rating, just casual. So again, I'm playing this game maybe not the way I would play necessarily as a idea of how to beat the opponent, but in this case, I'm doing it to see if I can develop my pieces fast. Now, I broke the rule, but I was provoked to try to get the bishop to go away. So the bishop traded. I got rid of the bishop for my knight, and so I'm okay. But white could be way ahead in development because of this errant pawn move. If white were to develop another piece, white did not, white could have been way ahead in development. So now I'm going to develop a piece, because I've only developed one. Now, I didn't even have the one. And so this is a move that is not provoked. Remember, we said don't move non-center pawns when not provoked. There was really no reason for that move at that time. I chased a bishop, which traded it off. There's nothing to trade here. It's a prophylactic move to keep this bishop from hitting here, from pinning. So I understand the prophylaxis, but it's not a good choice because there was no provocation for it. There was no reason that they had to do it. So now I'm looking at developing my bishop. This bishop will get developed, but I'm looking at, do I want to develop my bishop here, 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 or here? Personally, I don't like this because I'm attacking nothing. It's not pinned. I mean, I'm attacking, but it's not pinned. I like here because it attacks the center. It keeps this pawn from pushing, but the bad part is it doesn't stop this knight move. Now, granted, that knight move doesn't by itself win anything. It wins the pawn, but my queen gets to come here with the bishop here, threatening mate and threatening the pawn twice. So I'm actually going to develop here because I really love this diagonal. This is just such a great diagonal for that bishop almost all the time. And so this looks like free candy, and technically it is, but I think I'll win it back pretty quickly. So I'm playing a little looser rather than protecting the free candy. Remember what I said about not leaving free candy is one of our, I think it should be a goal for everyone playing. Don't leave free candy without knowing it. Do not unknowingly, yes, do not unknowingly leave free candy and take free candy unless there's a reason you're not. Like I didn't take, okay, good. So white takes the free candy. And as I said, I have a double attack on the knight and the pawn and the pawn. So all of these are technically free candy at the moment because of this queen move. So it was anticipated by me to do it. I got to develop the piece with tempo. And white took a developed piece and moved it twice. You think about it, so far, any piece I've developed, I've only moved once. We had the knight, I only moved once. I had this knight, hasn't moved. The queen's moved once. So the other thing is the bishop moved here and then moved twice to take. Now, I was threatening three things. White only saw two. White probably saw this one, maybe. White definitely saw this one. If white saw this one, this does not stop me from winning this. I could take it with the queen, but of course, if I take it with the queen, the knight takes me back. So maybe white saw this and said, well, I can do this because if you take with the knight, I take your queen. But the part white missed was this last part of free candy. So should white have taken the free candy? In general, remember, we can always break the rule of development to take free candy. But it was a little dangerous at the time. And so white would have done better to think about king safety, could have castled, and or push this pawn to develop this bishop, or develop the queen. But we don't want to develop the queen early. So by taking this pawn, now if we watch, we had a bishop move and a bishop move. Two moves for the same piece. Knight move, knight move, knight move. So that knight has moved three times. So two pieces have moved five times between them. And that might not seem like a big deal. And in fact, I only have three pieces developed. So it doesn't seem like it should be a big deal versus two pieces developed. But my pieces are very well coordinated in attacking a free pawn and also attacking here. And so unfortunately, this is checkmate for white. All right. Any questions about that? And if Murph wants to play another game, we can do that. Or if Dragon Air wants to play another game, happy to play another one. If you guys are on the stream, please chat and say hi. That'd be great. But we could play another one if they want. And only way I know to tell them is to message them. So I'm going to run over here and see if they want to play another one. Lemurf is up for another one, so let's play Lemurf again. Okay, this time it's a little slower, still casual. And again, I always like rated games, but casual for a stream is always nice, I think. Especially it's fine either way. I actually like rated also. So again, let's see about development, but watching out for that free candy. So far so good. I'm going to play quite normal, right? Which is going to, again, I'm not playing the Vienna or Bishop's Opening or any other, or King's Gambit. I love the King's Gambit, but that breaks the rules we're trying to teach, which is develop, develop, develop. Now, I'm not doing the Roy Lopez like Murph did against me. There's nothing wrong with it at all. He just made a mistake taking that pawn a little bit too early. So we'll see. Now I've developed as prescribed. It's not a rule. It's more like guidelines. But as prescribed, I developed both of my queen king side minor pieces first, so I can castle right pretty quickly. But Murph had to because he was protecting. Murph had to protect the pawn, so he developed a queen side piece before the king side. So no problems. So now he's attacking the pawn. I can definitely develop my knight, right? The knight should be a good piece to develop and get it out there early, but I'm tempted. I'm tempted to play a little differently later where I get to push these pawns, and but I got to develop. I still have to develop. I'm going to push the pawn to protect the pawn instead of the knight, right? Just a little different so that I can develop this bishop out to here first. And we'll see how that goes. We definitely hope that he castles kingside because that's where our pawns are pointing. Again, I throw in stuff that's not really a beginner level discussion, but it's there to right bonus. So there's some bonus stuff that we'll talk about. In later lessons, we'll talk about which side should you launch an attack on. Should it be the king side? Should it be the queen side? Or should you attack in the middle? And the pawn structure actually is instructive and tells you and dictate for you where you should be attacking. So nothing wrong with that. He castled, but I'm glad he castled kingside, and he castled early enough that we can launch not an attack, but we can start focusing our pieces towards the king side while we're developing. So I've saved this knight so it could go here or here. The reason, again, this is not the best square for the knight. This is by far the best square for the knight. But I might be tempted to put it here to one, protect this knight, especially if he gets this bishop out here. My bishop can't come in and break the pin. So since I can't break the pin by putting a bishop here, it might be nice to protect with the knight so then the queen can move away. Might be. I also just like moving my queen here because I'm hoping he pushes the pawn to chase my bishop and I can sacrifice and have fun. Uh, it's fun. Chess can be a lot of fun, and attacking chess is a whole lot more fun than passive and slow and positional chess. I didn't say positional chess is bad. I just said attacking chess is fun. All right, so here we go. We get the possibility of the bishop attacking. Now, if I push my queen up here right now, which I am, I'm developing my queen before the knight, so that's a faux pas, but which means a mistake, bad thing. But the good news is this is not going to be a pin if he goes after my knight. Now, if he goes after my knight, I still don't want him to take my knight because my king would be open. But my plan, I think, at this point would be to put my knight here and then to reposition it here, which can be fun. Again, looking for fun. The knight still can come here if that's where it belongs, but I also have the opportunity to push this pawn and keep his knight away. Right? Get that knight out of there if it tries to get into there. So that's the fun I'm thinking about while I'm developing my pieces. I'm only one piece shy of development. He's still two pieces shy, which is normal because it's black's turn. So he's one move behind because white goes first. I did not bring up my water bottle. Sadness. Like to be able to drink water when I'm talking a lot. So here's the pin we were talking about that we were not afraid of, but that we expected, and we got to figure out what to do about. I don't want to push Adam because he would take, and I would double up my pawns. So we're gonna play a little wild and free, and instead we're coming out here, hoping to get here, and then from there we might have to drop back to here if he pushes his pawn. right? Because I'm still not going to trade my knight for nothing. But my knight can come here first, and then if it gets pushed away, it can find a new home. So we're playing a little risque, but black is doing great. Black developed the other piece. Black has developed all four of its pieces, only has one piece left to develop. I would have much rather seen the queen come here. This would have been awesome. It would have been fully developed. I like it. Well, actually, the queen had to come here because we don't want to, right, have the double pawn problem. So here's the knight. Now, fun part of this is I kind of predicted that because I was looking at that I want to be able to push this pawn. So let's see what happens. If I push that pawn, the bishop can come here to threaten the rook, but that's not a big deal. And if the knight comes here with check, not a big deal. The king can actually move away and get away from this pin on this pawn that the bishop had. So I kind of like both of those situations. So I'm kind of glad I didn't develop my knight yet. I should have. Technically, I should have. So now we're just pushing the pawn, and we're going to put the question to the knight in the center, and then I have dynamics where we can see what we can do about breaking open the center. It just feels fun. I mean, that's the honest truth. It just feels. So if the knight comes here, we're going to have to run away, and then it's on black to see what he does next because I'm threatening to push this pawn or this pawn, make the bishop go away, and then this knight would be hanging. Come here on it. So the knight doesn't have a lot. Oh, look at this. Counterattack. Counterattack. Gotta love a counterattack. So when a piece is attacked, we said there are things that can happen. First thing is take the piece that's attacking you, and black can't take my pawn. The second thing you could do is run away. The knight could have run away, but the knight could have run away to an attacking, aggressive position and say check. Could say check. So that would have been a good move. Or the knight could have run away to any place else it wanted to run away to. Another option is to put something in between. Whenever you're attacked by a pawn, you cannot put anything in between. Same way as if you're attacked by a king, you cannot put anything in between. So the last choice is last choice. It should not be your first choice. It is your last choice. First choice, take the piece that's attacking you if you can, and it benefits you. The last choice is to attack something else of equal or greater value. If you attacking the king on your other piece or the queen, you're usually safe. But if you're attacking even those, you run risks. And this is an example of that risk. So black chose to attack a piece instead of protect and saving his piece. Now, the problem with this is I can take here. And if I take the knight, if I start off by taking the knight, black should take back the bishop so he gets a piece. But then I get to take the bishop. And if I take the knight and black takes the pawn, then my bishop could just take the pawn. So I'm attacking two pieces. I'm going to be, I'm going to take this piece, not attacking two pieces. And when I take this piece, I am attacking the bishop. So as of this moment, black is attacking my bishop, but I am also attacking his bishop. And so he is going to lose a piece. The knight's already lost, and he either saves the bishop and I save my bishop, or he takes the pawn and I take the pawn. I could take the pawn. So he takes my bishop, I take his bishop. So he's going to lose a piece. And so that's the danger of that choice. You don't want to attack. You don't want to attack a different piece without caution. It's much more dangerous than the other option of just running away. So, in order, take the piece that's attacking you, run away, hopefully to a better square, to an attacking square. Third choice, put something in between, which you may not be able to do. Fourth choice, and by the way, second and third, running away and putting something in between, it totally depends on the scenario. I can't tell you one's better than the other as a rule. While taking a piece attacking you, as a rule for beginners, is the first thing you should look at. And the last thing you should look at as a beginner is to attack something else of equal or greater value because it can backfire. It takes more time for you to figure all that out, and you have to make sure it's something that your opponent won't leave there on the table. Like, I'm not moving my bishop. Black attacked my bishop, and I'm not taking it off the table. I'm leaving it there, saying, be my guest. So black does take, which is good for black. It attacks this pawn, keeps this whole momentum going. And now I can take the free candy here. Now, when I take the free candy there, I got to remember, I can leave free candy on purpose. And I'm looking at that free candy. If I take that free candy, black gets to put his rook here and attack my free candy. Could use the queen too, but better would be the rook. So rook comes here, attacks my bishop, which would then be free candy. If I protect with a pawn, he just chases it with a pawn. The bishop still has to go away. Then look what's free behind it. So I have to realize that this bishop is attacking this pawn. It's not free candy now, but if I take here and he goes here and I leave, my bishop goes away, now it's free candy. And that'd be the bishop and the rook. And my knight that's still not developed would start being a headache. So rather than take the free candy, as a general rule, take the free candy. Instead of taking the free candy, I'm going to back up and maintain this long diagonal bothering the king. So I am foregoing the free candy. I got a free knight. I'm not going to be greedy because I see that I'm going to lose this pawn eventually if I take this pawn. So just like in the beginning, the other game where I told you that my free candy pawn was e5, and that if white took it, the queen can move up and attack both the knight and the pawn. I can immediately win back that free candy. That's a little bit advanced. I have beginners that don't even see free candy at all, but then being able to see the fact that free candy isn't really free because if you take it, sometimes it's called a poisoned piece or poisoned pawn. But if you take it, that it could be taken, that you can lose a piece of equal or greater value right away. That's a little harder to see, and that's why we're not focusing on it right now. So right now, all we're focusing on is develop, 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 and no immediate free candy. So I still have to develop this knight. That's my job. I'm not winning the race in development. I am for the moment, but if this queen develops, but I ended up with a free piece out of it. So far, I'm being rewarded for my bad play, basically, right? I ended up with free candy, and that's usually worth it. Now, I only place this knight can go is here or here because my queen's in the way, so my queen might have to move to get this knight developed because this pawn push would keep me out of those two squares. So rook comes over, prepping for I don't know what, eventually maybe getting in there, but I'm going to go ahead and jump in here because I need to develop that knight, and black could have pushed the pawn and kept me from developing. So I can understand if black said, well, I don't want to push a pawn, I want to develop, but this isn't developing. This is. We got to get the queen off the back rank, right? So we have a trade, and I'm happy to trade. I'm up a whole piece. So I'm very happy to trade. And I didn't have to take back with the queen. So this keeps that out of there. I want to keep my queen protecting this bishop because black has a discovered attack here. Right? If this knight moves, there's a discovered attack. And I don't want him to attack my queen without me being able to take his queen, which right now it does. So I'm happy. And this pin can be so annoying because that knight can't move. I mean, we lose the queen. And if the queen moves off, right? If the queen moves here or here or here or here or here, then I get to take and double up these pawns and open up the king. So a lot of good things for me with this pin. And I did this early because I was always meaning to, if he tries to put the question to the bishop, I was going to sacrifice. I didn't care. Giving it away for two pawns. But now I'm up a whole knight. I got a free knight in that deal. So with a free knight in hand, I'm even more inclined to sacrifice if I can get a pawn push. But now I can also push on the bishop. So I can push on the bishop this way. I can push on the bishop that way. I no longer have a black bishop hitting my queen here, so I can actually push this pawn. I can push this pawn too and hopefully trade it off, and then my rook would be attacking here. This would be really nice. Really, I would really like that. So I have multiple opportunities to launch an attack now, either with this pawn or the other. Oh, so black moved. This threat isn't, it is a threat because if it goes here, I don't want to take with this pawn because this pawn would fall, right? I don't want to give it away for free. But my bishop gets to come back here. And if he takes, then my bishop just takes. I'm okay with all of that. So now my only choice, my question is, do I want to go here so that I can then have the rook attacking the knight, or do I want to chase the bishop first? And my usual rule of deciding that is this bishop doing anything to bother me? Nah. I'm not crazy about if I push the pawn, he pushes the pawn, and then I take, he takes back. I have to take this way. Actually, I don't have a problem with that either. That feels okay too. Wow. I feel okay with a lot of moves. So I'm also ahead material, so I can trade material. I always can trade material when you're ahead. I kind of like getting rid of this bishop, but the bishop's not bothering me. So I'm thinking maybe don't get rid of the bishop. Hmm. This does open up the king to a possible diagonal attack by the queen. So that is something to. I think I will play it safe and quiet and just attack the bishop. Tell the bishop to go away. I was really tempted to do this, but that's because sometimes I like to play reckless. And probably safer and smarter would be to not open up my king to any possible attacks later. So we're on a 10 plus 5 increment, so I don't anticipate too much problems in that arena. Hey, LLMP showed up. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Nice hat. Thank you. I hope you like the shirt too. Shown it earlier, but anyway. All right, so the bishop goes back. Now we're fully developed by far for a long time. So there's really that whole lesson plan of going over being fully developed and all that stuff is kind of out the window. We're going to just push the pawn anyway, right? So I said I didn't want to open it up. I didn't want to play reckless, but let's have fun. I remember now the lesson was to develop the pieces. The pieces are developed. So no reason to belabor anything anymore. By the way, on this pawn push, I can take with the bishop, so I don't even have to worry about any other shenanigans. So here again, if pawn push, I am taking the knight because now the rook is attacking the knight. So I have two pieces attacking the knight. I feel better. By the way, if the queen comes here, he is threatening a discovered attack, check, and he'd win my bishop. So something for me to keep in mind and be aware of, and I just have to not to let things happen out of my control. I don't like things like that. So the queen can say, "Hey, I can go here," because then if you take, I get to win back your bishop, and I don't have to take the knight and double up my pawns. Definitely a playable option. And so we have the move first, which still allows the queen to get here next move, right? The queen gets here with check, still satisfies the needs over here. But you know what? I'm going to take here. And because if the queen comes here first, now my bishop can come back. If he just takes my bishop, which is fine, don't blame him, I get to take his queen. I don't blame him, but it would be a bad idea. Oh no, my bishop. I'm sorry. I am actually imitating Eric Rosen. Mimicry is the greatest form of mockery. No, it's the greatest form of flattery. So take it as flattery, hopefully. All right. So pawn takes back, and now I have my bishop is hanging. I not really caring. I don't care to take the pawn and again open his rook. So instead, I'm going to put my bishop now. I can put my bishop all the way back here so that it can come up around this way. Or I can put my bishop here and protect the pawn that's threatened. So now my opponent does have this check, which I might be enticed to put my queen here because I'm okay with a queen trade because I'm ahead in material. And you're ahead in material. Material trades are good. Piece trades are good. Pawn trades are bad. So I want to trade pieces, not pawns. So LMP, what do you think? Any questions? And LMP let me know something which was very helpful, which is that when he chats, it might take like 5 or 10 minutes before I see the chat. Right? They don't pop in right away. So something for me to keep in mind. That was very good to know. All right. So I'm thinking I could take with the queen so that I could get this check in and see if I can work my way in after his king versus taking with the bishop, which was my initial inclination. But there's nothing really attacking. Um, ah, Queen here. I kind of like the quicker in. Right now, I don't have a quick in. This pawn push can actually push, stay out of the way. I kind of like this. Rook's just going to do this. And my opponent is lower on time. And again, I will be much later, but we will be doing lessons on time management. I'm working with some of my students to test run some training opportunities, teaching how to play with time management issues. So I can't do this block of the check. I could do this one, again, hoping for a trade. But now I'm not so crazy about getting any of that trade. The queen has only this square afterwards. He can't get into any of these squares. So I'm thinking I'm just going to take my king off of that diagonal instead of what my original plan was, that I was willing to trade queens. And I'm still willing to trade queens, but I don't see any need to trade queens at this moment. So we'll have to wait and see what he does next, but he's very low on time. So usually you end up playing like he just did, really fast. Don't always know if it's good or bad. All right, so now I can do a discovered attack by pushing this pawn. And when I push this pawn, I have a battery of an attack on here. So that's looking very, very nice. I also can push, I can also take here with the rook, pinning this pawn so this pawn can't move. And then when I push that pawn, it's maybe even better. Because right now, if I push that pawn, I'm thinking, he might decide to push his pawn here. So we're going to go with this move first. Again, don't see any other threats. I don't see, again, the queen doesn't have any of these squares to play. Oh, he doesn't have this square. Rooks do go backwards, as I've been told. So now that attacks, but now we can protect the rook at the same time open up a discovered checkmate. So this again, and he's under extreme time pressure, so it's totally understandable that he misses the fact that this pawn move did protect the rook, but more importantly, opened up this discovered attack. So even if he had like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, he might have missed it. Beginners miss, remember, beginners miss discovered attacks, especially long range discovered attacks. But I also have to attribute this to time pressure that he had to find that there was a problem. All right, so that should be mate. And we say thank you very much for the game. All right, and that really kind of ends up our time. Let's see, the chat shows on the screen after 10 seconds, but you didn't see it until 10 minutes later. Wow, that's scary. Is that still true here? Let's see, that's at 8:54, it says, and it looks about 8:54. Feel free to send me another chat like as soon as you like, and let's see how long it takes me to see it. Now, me seeing it as in noticing it, yes, I can definitely agree. It probably took me 10, 12, 15 minutes because I'm not good at noticing things. Especially, I'm getting used to this. So we got to play 3 games against 2 different people. So that was really good. I really appreciate the help and appreciate you guys playing. And we did development. By the way, I'm taking suggestions on which principle to talk about next. We will probably cover king safety next week, although, as I've said, there were 5 goals in the opening. The number, hey, I see it. There is a delay. Yes, Murph said there's a delay. So the 5 goals in the opening. Oh, this time I look sooner. Thanks. So the 5 goals in the opening. Number 1 goal, and they are in order of importance, to develop your pieces. The number 2 goal, to develop your pieces. And the number 3 goal, develop your pieces. Number 4 goal, no, not develop your pieces. 3 is enough. King safety, getting your king to safety. And the number 5 goal is center control. And while we're doing all of that, we have to keep in mind not giving away free candy. No free candy. Don't give away free candy. All right. So in that case, when we think about the game and when we're looking at it, we next week I could continue doing development for 2 more goals, and we could talk about even better development, maybe developing your pieces even better. When can you stop developing an attack? When can I launch an attack? What kind of attack should I be doing? Where should I be developing my pieces? We covered that a little bit this week. I might cover it again in more depth next week. If not, next week, starting Monday, we will probably do King Safety, which will be just about castling. And what was nice was we had two games that we shared, and in one of those games we did the king. The king safety played. I castled queen side while my opponent castled king side, so therefore we had an immediate attempts at king attack. And in both of them, the king ended up being uncovered. These three pawns for this king, we do really want to keep them unmoved if possible. So the best way to protect this king is three unmoved pawns. And as you can see, white broke that rule early, but white broke it understanding the rule and trying to take advantage of the black's position to then forcibly open black's position, right? So that, remember, we even took, even though we had a piece under attack, the queen is under attack. So we were happy to open up black's position forcibly. So we did it voluntarily to free up our rook file. I mean, rook F file, free the rook, while black did it unwillingly because he had no choice, and therefore we're going to try to get an attack going. And then I don't know if it was instinct or just dumb luck on my part. I decided to take with the queen, which, if I had thought about it, I might have said this is nice because it lines up for a future mate threat. I did not say that when I was looking at it because I didn't think about it. All I thought about was maybe which one would have more freedom. I thought about the queen coming here after that freedom. But of course, afterwards, I noticed that, oh, this is a nice battery. I have a discovered attack. And so it turned out quite fortuitous that I chose to take with the queen instead of with the bishop. But it's something you should keep in mind. There should be a major choice is, oh, if I can create this battery, good thing. Gives me threats later. All I have to do is get this pawn out of my way. And I was lucky enough to not only get that pawn out of my way, but to be able to get this pawn out of the way. So this pawn can no longer block. And so when we push, not only do we have this battery, but the only way that you could stop it is to give away a piece. So that's important that at this moment, we need to push that pawn. So where could black have gone? Black should have probably went here with the rook. By black going here with the rook, it would keep the pawn from pushing. So if that pawn can't push, this battery becomes null and void. It's a dead battery. So rook here would have been a nice move, stopping the pawn push. But of course, our opponent was under time pressure, and we know that, and so it made it hard. By the way, this is free candy. So this rook move would be a tough one to make because it doesn't stop white from taking this free candy. Chasing the queen, attacking the bishop twice. Then the rook and the queen would be attacking the bishop. So the point, I guess, behind this is not that I didn't see all this, right? But the point behind this is that by developing and coordinating your pieces well, good things happen. This is not a well-placed knight. This is a terrible knight, but it's an extra knight. Remember, I have an extra piece because of free candy. So free candy gets you way ahead, and if you can get ahead and coordinate your pieces, good things happen. Good things happen. All these types of attacks are available, and they play themselves. I'm not a genius. I don't have to figure out great moves because at this point right here, black's in trouble, and it's hard for black to get out of it. This move would be nice, but it doesn't get out of it, right? Because we saw that this drops, then you're going to lose the bishop, and that bishop could drop back here and attack that pawn again. Just there's problems, definitely problems. Could have not used this rook. This rook was here, I believe. Could have used this rook. Come here. So that way, at least the king has a way to run away. Because the reason that the mate happened was because the king couldn't run here because the rook was in the way. So sometimes our own pieces get in our way also. All right. Let's see. Then white rook takes d6, double attack. Yes, yes, exactly. If we take this to a quick analysis board, maybe. I don't know how quick it'll be. See if we can get it to go to an analysis board. Here we go. This is going to be a small problem because it's not set up properly. Let's go to the lesson now. Excellent. So in the position that Murph just mentioned, yes, the rook takes will be a double attack on the bishop and on the queen, and yep, that'll cause problems. So right here, we saw that this doesn't quite work because now we have the discovered attack. Really, all you could do is move the rook and give away the pawn so that the king can have a place to run to, because you're going to lose this pawn at this point in the game. So the other choice might be to come here, as we were talking about, to stop this, but then we have this take, which creates a double attack. And it's protected by the queen, so it's a true double attack. And black's not going to usually give away the queen. And so black has to find something to do, which you're going to lose the bishop. And there is no, if you could take with check at least, then that might work. Bishop could come here. Okay, chat say that no, but bishop could come here blocking the attack on the queen, and the queen would still be protecting. So this will kind of suffice for the moment. It would save everything for the moment. But there's a double attack again. Again, the position kind of plays itself because the pieces are well placed. And so now we have a double attack again. The rook blocks, we just take it. And if the king moves, which is the only legal move, if we move here, the king moves anyway. Still same problem. In fact, worse with the queen here. If the rook comes here and we take, still have to move here. And then worse, I'm saying, is because now we get this check, and then we get this threat of mate, which there's no stopping it. But if you did it, you let white take here with check, then this pawn move is at least possible. Not that it's good because we still have two pieces on. But if you go here, then we don't have the immediate. Well, we do. Still a problem. This push still doesn't work. So a lot of ways to win that game. All right. Any questions? Thank you again for showing up. Thank you for playing me the games. I'm going to look for people to play every Friday. I'm happy to allow two beginners to play against each other, and I'll commentate or comment on that game instead of on a game I'm playing. That's okay too. Um, I'm okay with either one, but I need volunteers every Friday for that part of the lesson. So next week again, we'll either be still talking development, or we might jump all the way to goal number 4, king safety, which will still include it's a stepwise process I'm trying to do. So we will be adding on free candy, then we'll be adding on development, then we'll be the next phase that we'll be including would be the king safety. So we'll still talk development, but we'll be focused on king safety. Have a great weekend. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year one more time. And we will hopefully see you on Monday. Good night.